Hello, this short demonstration will look at using type or text and fonts inside of Adobe Illustrator. It'll look at free transforming them proportionately so they don't get squashed, and it'll look at adding space between characters in efforts to fit text in certain places where we're limited by space. So I'll go over here and I will use the regular type tool, and I'll click here and I'll type my name and I will type the font here. I'm using Myriad Pro font. Okay. And you can see this is kind of small for the page. And if you look up here in my Layers tab, you can see that I'm using a font. So I'm going to click on this with the selection tool, and I'm going to make it bigger, but I'm going to make a mistake first. The mistake I'm going to make is I'm going to make this larger unproportionately, meaning that it doesn't go up and down and left and right equally, which will cause a distortion, and we don't want that. So here it is incorrectly. And hopefully you can see that it's a little challenging to read, and it doesn't look that great. It looks like it's been squashed. Looks like it's been made taller, but not made proportionately wider. So I'm going to hit Command-Z and step backward. And the key to this simply, in fact, the key to resizing any image proportionately inside of Adobe Illustrator is adjusting it from the corner while holding the Shift key. So I'm going to hold the Shift key first and then go to a corner and stretch. Oops, my mouse battery is dying, I think. And stretch this out, and you can see that I've been able to size this proportionally. Okay, so the key is holding the Shift key and operating from the corner, and then I can size it over here. I'm going to use my other mouse here, my pad. My mouse battery seems to be dying. All right, next. I'm going to type my name again in all caps, and I'm going to hold Shift, and I'm going to stretch it out to about here. The next thing we want to look at is how to add space between letters. For instance, if I wanted my name to be this size, but I wanted it to stretch through the entire document, I can go click on it and go up to Character. And when I go into Character, I go into this particular function right here, which is called Tracking. And I could hold this up arrow to increase the tracking. I could, just put in a number to adjust the tracking. I could click on it again and go to this, and I could hold up to increase the tracking. Now notice here that the size of the letters isn't changing, but rather it's the spacing between the letters. So average or normal or default spacing is 0, and you can see I'm close to 400 now, and I'm on my way to 500. The font size isn't changing, but the space between the characters is. And maybe if that's not fast enough, I'll type in, and maybe that's good enough for me. Or maybe I want a little bit more. Maybe I can get a fuller stretch across the page. This is often overlooked, and it's a very powerful part of using font and text. It's that adding that tracking or that spacing between. Let me show you this, though. What happens if you don't want so much space in between and you come into Illustrator maybe after someone's used it or you used it in the past, and you want to write, hello, this is a test. And you write that, and you're like, oh, that's not big enough, so you're going to use the selection tool to click on it, and you go to the corner, you want to make it bigger, but you realize that there's way too much spacing. What do? You can go up to character, and you can bring that spacing back to regular by just putting a 0 in there, and now you have that normal or that default character spacing. So you can add a little or a lot of spacing with characters. But this is basics on how to use type and free transform it proportionally and add spacing between characters called tracking.